Hello and welcome to Keep Hope Alive podcast. We have a great show for you today. I got Miss Dawn Williams here with us, your fertility angel. And I love that. You are an angel, and I'm looking right behind you. I can see the rays of light coming down. You're a beautiful angel. So she has been helping women maximize the ability to conceive. So we're going to dive into her story and everything she does. But first, I have a random question for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's a trivia game. No, I'm kidding. So one of our biggest sponsors is lifeonrecord.com. So my question to you is, how many weddings have you been to in, let's say, the last 15 years?
Last 15 years. I would say probably six.
Six. Okay. So this
Is that
next
above
question is,
average or below average?
you know, I think it is average. Some people say none. Some people will say 15 or 20, and then I will say, are you in the event industry? Well, yeah. So, for me being a wedding photographer, how many weddings? I'm like, are we at 50, 60, 70? I don't know how
Yeah,
many. It's
yeah.
just a lot. So, but usually when the guests are walking in to see the ceremony, whether it's at a church or outside, usually they have this thing right to the side to sign. What is that thing?
Oh, the guest registry.
Okay, I think it's funny. I had one person say your life away, and I was like, wait, that would be the bride and
I'm
groom,
your
but
life away.
your life away. I love that answer. So I kind of keep that a hidden one. So instead of having that guest book, what Life on Record has is a vintage rotary phone. It is so cool. There's different
Ooh.
styles. My favorite one I put on our Facebook page, but it's like gold and black. I wish I had one here. And the handle is so unique. It's like you pick it up. Congratulations on your wedding. We're so happy for you. You guys are a cute couple. And then you get the groomsman. And it's like, hey, dude, it's about time you put a ring on her finger. So you are collecting all these voices saying congratulations on your big day. And right next to it, they have a QR code. So I guess if there's a long line and somebody wants to take out their mobile device, you just scan it and they can leave their message on their own mobile phone either before or after the wedding. So once all the messages do get collected, you have a choice. They can either burn it on a 12-inch vinyl record or they have a keepsake speaker. And it's all like it's done so cute. Like they'll put their names on the record album. This is your wedding day. And I was just like, I'm so ready. I don't want to get married just because of that. I have to say that, but you can use it for whatever reunions. I used it recently for my son's football team. One of the kids broke his leg and growth plate, and we had the kids call it in, I hope you get better. So it could be used for many things, but their plans start at $99. You get the phone number, which goes all over the world for 1 year, which is amazing. So, and then I say, if it's a wedding, like remind your guests, hey, I still have that phone number. It's like 2 months before our 1 year anniversary. If you want to call back and wish a happy anniversary, do that. And then
Yeah.
they get that burned down there too.
Oh.
So, but definitely, I think it's a fun concept to be celebrating your like 1 year anniversary and sit back and maybe with a glass of wine and your cake
It's
that you
very
kept.
unique. Yeah, it's very unique.
It's definitely, yeah, definitely. So to find out more information about them, please visit www.lifeonrecord.com. All right. So my biggest question is, who is Dawn?
Who is Dawn? Dawn, the fertility angel, right? Um,
Yes.
so I am a mom of a 13-year-old, a 13-year-old who I did not conceive, interestingly enough. Yes. So that's a little interesting part to the story that we'll be able to go into a little bit. But I did adopt her from birth. So, and her name has to be Faith because of the whole journey that I was on. And see, it all fits with the angel, and you've got the celestial stars in the background there, right? So, what else about me? I'm married. I am a huge animal lover. So, right now, we have 3 dogs and we have 10 bunnies. two different
Which
litters of babies, two different litters of babies, and ready to find their new homes close to Easter coming up. And
oh,
also, we just purchased a horse, so we're horse owners as well. So
yay.
I'm big into animals. I'm a avid tennis player, so I love playing like doubles tennis, like at least 4 times a week.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
yeah, and I'm a life coach. Well, if you want to call it a fertility guide, fertility coach, that's what I do. And my background is counseling and teaching. And I love to be creative. I love to read. One of my biggest loves of life is personal growth and just always trying to evolve and,
Yeah.
learn about how I can be a better version of who I am in all aspects of my life.
Exactly. And that's something I started to, I think a lot of people need to learn about themselves, before they can love somebody else, and that's just a
Exactly.
relationship thing. But finding out who you are and becoming the best version of yourself is so important. So I think I'm going to start doing coaching sessions on that. So that is an added thing this year to keep hope alive. So one on
Absolutely.
one. Yeah.
You and me,
So
girl. You and me.
yeah, definitely. I love hearing that from you and everything. And I love that you named your daughter Faith because I do have a story later on about the word faith.
Oh, I
So I
love it.
love that. And helping women because it has to be so hard for a woman to hear that I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to conceive. And that's heart-wrenching.
Mhm.
And, everybody's story is different. I'm just, my heart goes out to everybody who does have to go through that, but
Mhm.
you're there as a coach to help them and stay focused and
Yeah.
really get to the root of it. So, did you know, like at a younger age, this was the direction you wanted to go, or did you actually major in something else, but God led you here? Like,
That is such a great question, Nadine, because it's fun. It's funny how things like divine intervention guides you on your path, even though sometimes we think we're going a direction we don't like. It's all part of the process to get us where we're needed or expected to be because it's right for what our purpose is here. But no, honestly, this part of my life now that we're talking about, the fertility angel and the coaching in that area is very new in the last year. So I just published a book called Free to Conceive, and that was published in May. And
okay,
that book happening was not something I planned to do. My background is I was a teacher, and then I also became a school counselor. So I worked in the schools as an elementary guidance counselor, and then I left that job when I was struggling with infertility. So let's just take it back. I'll give you a little piece here. I'm 57. I struggled with infertility when I was 37. So it was a second marriage for me. I was married, and actually, one of the difficulties that came about there was my husband disclosed after close to 10 years of marriage that he did not want children. But that
oh, that's
wasn't
hard.
our, yeah, that wasn't what our agreement was, obviously, prior to that. So I really lost big years of fertile time for us. So anyone out there who's, wanting to become a mom, keep in mind that your prime fertility years are below 35. So, in your 20s are like prime time. So many times now we're waiting longer to start our families, which is understandable because, most partnerships, two people are working and there's, trying to get moving in their career or make good on the education that they spent, thousands on. And it's totally understandable, but it's also something to consider, knowing if you do want to have a family that you may want to be on top of that and just getting your fertility status checked out, which is very simple to do. Go to your OBGYN, they can just do blood work to check your FSH level and they can see where you are and see if you're at a good level. So it's really not a big deal to do, but so powerful if you choose to do that. But yeah, so that was my background. But 37 years old, I ended up getting remarried. And, we wanted to start a family right away because it's a second marriage. My second husband was 15 years older than me. So
Mhm.
he didn't have children from a previous marriage. I didn't have children from a previous marriage. But there we were together saying, let's get moving on this. There's no time to waste because look at our ages. And Wouldn't you know, wasn't happening for us, wasn't happening for us. Now, given I was over 35 years old, we're told at that point, if you're trying regularly without protection to conceive and you're not conceiving, you should get tested after 6 months. If you're less than 35 and it's not happening after a year, that's when it's recommended that you get tested. So that's what I did. We both were tested. We did the whole gamut of, all the physical things that they test. And that's one of the things I want to put out there is, excuse me, is that the physical piece is what's always looked at. And it needs to be looked at. It's very important. There could be a woman's fallopian tubes could be blocked, and all they really need to do is unblock that and she's good to go. Or maybe she's just not ovulating regularly and they can put her on Clomid and all of a sudden she starts ovulating regularly. There's many physical biological things that can be the reason why you're not conceiving. So definitely get it checked out. However, what the piece was that I think was missing back in the years that I was struggling, which for the record was 6 long excruciating years. I tried so many different things that I was then able to realize these are the things that are not being uncovered. Like the things that nobody looks at when we know that our mind and body is so connected, Nadine. Like, how many of you out there can be like, okay, yeah, let's say you're afraid to go on a plane. You don't like flying. You can actually think thoughts about flying and physically feel ill or physically feel anxious. That's how connected our mind and body is, right? Or you can have
Yeah.
a bodily sensation and then have a thought about it, and everything's all connected. So my point in saying that is there are so many things that we may have done prior to our infertility diagnosis and during the infertility diagnosis that's affecting whether the body deems whether it's a safe time to conceive or not. We need to look at our mindset. We need to look at our emotions. We need to look at our stress levels. We need to know how to manage it better. We need to look at strategies that help us get to the dream that we're looking to become, which is a mother, and not just, oh, well, you have unexplained infertility. Like, we did all of the physical testing. There's no known reason that we can, uncover as to why you're not conceiving. We don't know what we can do for you. I know what I can do for you, the stuff that hasn't been done, which is what my book's about, which is why it's called Free to Conceive. And in that book, Nadine, I have a 5-point STAR method. And the STAR method is where we uncover in the book, and I do it as well in my one-on-one coaching, all of those areas in the STAR. Each point of the STAR stands for something. And we can go over this briefly later if you'd like to, but each of those are what might be impeding your ability to conceive. That has really very little to do with the physical components. And it's what I believe, like I said, is really not getting tapped into, because let's face it, if it was only physical, why would we only have a 40 to 50% success rate for the reproductive science technologies like the IVF and so forth? It would be 100%. If all we had to do was get the perfect sperm and get the perfect egg and put it in the petri dish and then implant it, like, why wouldn't it just be working if it was physically based? There's a lot more to it than that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really my goal, is to really bring a new, like, shed a light on infertility in general. I think it's a very, very misunderstood area. Not just in the way that I approach treating it, but also, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but it's my area of treatment that I can do based on being a counselor. And also the fact that it's so misunderstood. It is a lonely, lonely place when you are infertile, because you're dealing with that grief and loss on the regular, not just when you get your period every month and you're not pregnant, but all the times that you're, seeing all the stuff on Facebook, and this person's having a gender reveal, this person's having a baby shower. You're in church and they're saying, let's stand up, all mothers, for Mother's Day, and you can't stand up. I mean, it's in your face constantly. Nobody can look at you and know that you're suffering with it. And when they do know that you're suffering with it, they aren't real helpful with their comments. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever come across that, but it's like
People in comments. Yeah. Yeah.
the things that are said to you
And
when you're
unfortunately,
going
it was
through it.
at a church, and I went to a different church, and they're not like that. So, but
Uh-huh. Yeah. And
people
so,
need to be aware, how to talk to other people. We don't know what each person goes through in their life.
and I honestly
So,
think it's an innocent ignorance. Like, if you haven't gone through it, they will just say something like, well, you just need to relax. Or,
Yeah.
why don't you just adopt? Why don't I just adopt? Like, why didn't you adopt? You know what I mean? Like you're all having your biological children, like why are you looking at me because I'm struggling to conceive for 2 years that I should just adopt like it's a, you know, second level prize or something. You know what I mean? That's its own thing that you need to make a decision about. But the fact that they just like flippantly say something is really indicative of how much lack of awareness there is around the whole thing in general. So it's my hope too, like not just helping those that are suffering with it and helping them to reach their dream of motherhood, but also to raise awareness about infertility and be able to have more supportive people in life, because it's a very stressful time and the stress does not help you to conceive. And so if other people are adding to our stress as we're suffering with it, it's just magnifying things and making you feel less seen, less validated. It's just a tough place to be.
It really is. It really is. And I love that you have a concept now. Like when people come to you, is it in office? Are you doing Zoom meetings with them?
I mean, if they would be local to me, I would honestly prefer, to do in person because I always feel like that's a great connection. But it's whatever they prefer and whatever they feel most comfortable with. But Zoom is the way to go. As you know, it's a great
Yes.
way to connect with people and anywhere in any country,
Yes.
right? So, and
Yeah.
actually infertility is 1 in 4 couples worldwide at this point. So infertility
See,
levels
yeah.
are increasing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
I don't like how the judgmental part of it, and how people can throw their 2 cents if they haven't been through it. That's where you,
exactly.
my
Exactly.
prayers are with you. It will happen,
Yep.
positive
Right. How
reinforcement.
about
But
just give the person a hug and say, I'm thinking of you. My thoughts are with you. It must be tough. Like they're not really asking for much. They just want comfort. Like we all just want comfort and compassion, right?
that's it. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And not so much opinions. Like I
Exactly.
know
So
even
many
for relationships.
opinions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever field it is, if somebody is just going to be so opinionated and think they're always right, then yeah, there's an issue
Yeah.
right there.
When I was going through it, I mean, what I noticed, like the pain for me was so strong, Nadine, because I was one of those little girls who always knew she wanted to be a mom. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
took care of my little sister. I babysat from 12 years old and up. I, became an infant room teacher at a daycare and took care of little infants. And so then it's my time to be a mom and it's like slapped away from you. It's just like, no, 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 and like, and that's where all of the questions I think start happening for women. Like, why me? Like,
Yeah.
why not the ones that are drug addicted and don't take care of their babies and are abusive? Why can't they be infertile? Right. That's the questions that start happening in your mind. And that I think we can get lost in that. And I became in a very desperate state. I remember being someone who was constantly on the computer, you know, Googling and searching for ways like myths and different things and potions and lotions and this and that you can try to kind of increase fertility, or this might work. And, you got to keep your legs up in the air after you have intercourse. And that way the sperm's not coming out. Like any little thing that you could think of, I've called myself crazy. Like I actually felt crazy trying to get pregnant and feeling you have no control over it, but yet you're trying to give yourself a sense of control when there's no certainty if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. So I remember the pain was so strong that I actually asked God and said, if you're not going to give me this baby, can you please just take away my desire to have one, to want one?
I recall that when they told me, I remember I'm visualizing when I got back. There was 2 things when found out I couldn't have a baby. I remember I was crying so hard and I was like at Starbucks drive-through trying to order my drink with tears coming down. And
Mhm.
the lady on the other end, we're friends now. She's like, "Are you okay? I don't know you." I was like, "I'm so
Oh,
sorry. I just want a coffee, but I and I remember getting home and I sat on my stairwell and I cried and I was like, I felt like a failure. I remember having that feeling like
yep.
I got married and he keeps saying I can't get pregnant. And I had to come to terms with it. And I just tried to refocus and I was like, okay. And at the time it was Denise Austin, like workout, I'm gonna lose some weight. And we had a gym at our apartment complex. And so I lost like 32 pounds in 3 months. I grew up with epilepsy. I remember I was at a big park running miles and stuff, but I had a seizure and fell to the ground. Somebody called 911, got me there. But for whatever reason, when I got back, I contacted my gynecologist and said, hey, I'm due for a checkup, blah, blah, blah. So I went in after that. And here's the thing, I didn't get periods. Nobody knew why. They were
Mm,
not regular for me. So I couldn't tell, like, if anything were to happen. I just knew that I was off, and they were just saying, no, never. So I went and I think it's so funny. I'm one of those people that people say, pee in the cup. I'm like, I'm scared. I'm gonna miss. I don't want to pee all over my hand. I just hated that, like by far. I still do to this day. I'm like, do you have a hat? I'd rather pee in that and transfer it. But I remember the next morning, it was dial-up computer and it knocked me off in the morning. And I'm like, who is calling? And it was the doctor's office. Do not go to work today. And I go, what? You're very, very, very pregnant. And I go, no, you guys told me I couldn't. You must have the wrong person. Nope, it's you. So
mm,
then it felt like, okay, I went through the heartache, the feeling, the pain that I can't, but I put it into working out and having this routine and getting my mind off of it that I got pregnant. But
mhm,
it was the same story after I had my daughter. Oh, you can't get pregnant. And then 10 years later,
mhm.
you're pregnant. I go, no, it's a kidney stone. I was like, they're like, do you need a minute? I'm like, I guess so.
Yeah.
So, I
Well,
mean,
you know what? I
it's,
love what you said there, though, on how you're like, I redirected my mind and I put it into working out and taking my focus off of it. And honestly, I think that that is very key. And that's one of the components of the star that I talked about is the S, which is story. Story refers to your mindset. And it's the narrative that we have in our brain. It's the story that we tell ourselves about what's we're experiencing in our lives, you know? And I had a hard time with that. So like for me, I was kind of the opposite of you in that I was so like almost obsessed with this is not something I'm willing to accept. I'm not accepting that I'm infertile. Like I will not accept that God does not want me to have a child. Like I'm meant to be a mother. I know I need to be a mother. I think my identity was so interwoven and interlocked with being a mother that I didn't know who I would be if I wasn't that. Like here I am at 37, married the second time, and this is what I'm expecting to do in my life. Like, so if you take that from me, what does that mean? I don't know what anything means anymore. That's how I was with it. And those are some of the things that I think a lot of women deal with is the beliefs that we have. And,
yeah,
some they feel like, well, I'm not even a whole woman if I can't conceive. If I can't give my husband, someone that follows the family name or someone that has our genes, like who am I a complete woman? Am I worthy of being his wife? There's so many things that are down deep and hidden that drive the thoughts that we have and then
yeah,
actually impact our ability to conceive. And that's why the book's called Free to Conceive, because you have to be in an open, allowing space to bring that abundance of a baby to you. And I was doing everything but that. Think about what my energy was like, Nadine. I was very
yeah,
obsessed, very constricted energy, very controlling energy, which was not open. It was like, gosh darn it, I'm going to make this baby happen. I don't care what I have to do. I was like, I did acupuncture and then I quit my job because I thought it was too stressful. And I had special prayer groups praying for me. And then we did this whole health and wellness program that was unbelievably intensive, that required a lot
hmm,
of my husband and I for 2.5 years. She got every couple pregnant but us. Nothing was working. And we
wow,
did IUIs, we did IVF, nothing. And so I truly believe there is so much uh, potency to the pieces of what I'm talking about that I put in the book that nobody's really addressing, especially if you've gotten no results that show any proof as to why you're not conceiving. You know what I mean? All the more, let's look at the areas of mental health and emotional health and see how that's impacting. So when I was going through it, I was like, what are the two things I really, really needed that was not available to me? I wanted to get this baby to happen, and I wanted to feel better because I was so stressed during that time. Like I had to
Yeah.
put on a happy face. I went to work every day around children, around mothers, women who I worked in an elementary school. They're women who were having babies left and right because they're elementary teachers, you know? So they're all like,
Mm.
oh, I'll get off in the summer and I plan to have my baby right before that. So I'll have maternity leave and I'll have the summer off and I'll get all this time with the baby. And that's how it would go for them. And I'm like, wow, they can actually plan when they want to have their baby. I can't even get a positive pregnancy test in 6 years. This is phenomenal. You know, like it's just something that nobody could relate to. And all of my friends and family, nobody had infertility issues. So I felt like I was on an island alone that nobody really, really could relate to. So when I wrote this book, I wanted it to address those two things. How can I
Yeah.
get this baby to happen? I mean, there's no guarantees because, you know, we have a higher power up there who decides what babies are coming and what not. Like, is that going to fertilize or not, you know? But
Yeah.
we can put ourselves to create the best conditions for conception to happen. And when you're creating the best conditions for conception to happen, when you do conceive, now you're creating the environment for a healthy pregnancy, a healthy delivery, and you're in the best mindset and emotional state of being the mother that you want to be for that baby too. So I always feel like if you read the book or work with me, either way, there's no losing with it. You know, you could go do IVF and spend $10,000 on an IVF and nothing happens from it. That was us. Like, put your money on the roulette
Yeah.
wheel and hope your number comes up, right? Or, you know what? You can read a book and do all of the things that are in there as it applies to your life that helps you become the version of yourself that you want to be for your
Yeah.
child. Like there's no losing with that, you know? And also it helps you determine, you know, if it's not going to work the way in the way that you imagined it to. Like in my case, I never conceived, but we did take the adoption route. And the reason that I know these components work is because the adoption decision is a huge decision in and of itself. And that process that we took was smooth and easy because why? Because I was different. That I was different on my process of adoption than I was when I was dealing with my infertility. I was closed off, I was obsessive, and I was controlled, and my energy was just like so constricted. And then when it came to adoption, I was so believing. My mindset was like, I know that I'm going to be a mother. I don't know if it may take 5 years till we adopt. I don't know what country we'll be adopting from. I don't know if the mother will change her mind. I don't know how this is going to look, the birth mother, I mean. Um, but I believe with 100% certainty that it will happen. And because I had that belief, all of my actions were aligned with that. My
Very
emotions were
good.
aligned with that. And I created conditions that were aligned with what I desired, which was to be a mother. I wasn't doing that before. And that's why I 100% believe in, you know, working on these facets of things than just the physical component.
Yeah, I see a lot like how what you're saying and it helps somebody, it took me into this world, to go back and say, well, a lot of people are going through this, but the one thing I came to like, and when I was changing my mind was nature.
Mm.
And it was just something about getting out there, taking walks. I remember I saw a coyote on my walk, and I'm like,
Mhm.
why is it just standing there? Can I walk past it? Like, do I
Mhm.
have a fear? Nah, we'll just walk past it.
Yep.
I
Yep.
did. No fear. But, it was becoming in tune with that and just taking time to know what my wants were for the now. Like,
Hmm.
hey, I remember thinking, I can't get pregnant. I have this workout, I am going to work. I'm doing the best, I
Yeah.
can. So, but it was the time to learn more about who I was. And at that age range, in my
Mhm.
20s at the time, I was like, I can't sit here and I don't want to call it, it's not negative energy. I don't want people to feel like they put themselves down because of this, but it does
Right.
happen.
It
I
does.
get that.
Yeah.
I understand it. Yeah, because I've been through it. It's just wanting to know how to get help and more explanation. I remember I started getting insomnia. I was looking on the computer too. What do I do? Having a coach like what you do, I wish you were around like
I
back
know.
then for me because
I wish I
I'm
was there
scared.
for myself too, you know?
Well, you're here for this reason. This is your
Yeah.
purpose. You are an angel and you are helping people out there. So, and I
Yeah.
actually want to connect with you because if I ever get more people asking, hey, I'm having trouble conceiving and I feel like I'm going down and getting depressed, I'm going to direct them your way.
Thank you.
Definitely
Yeah.
100% because it is important to get that help. And it sounds like you're empathic like I am. I could pick up on that. So, but I think believing in just talking it out, listening and hearing what emotions they're going through, and having like a little game plan of how to power through this because it's day by day is going to take. Your body will just heal a little bit more.
Mhm.
And, it's like, I think even in relationships, when I'm trying to coach people, and even for myself, trying to date in my 40s, it has been terrible. I finally found somebody I really like and I'm falling in love with. Well, I am fall. I fell,
I fell. I'm
but
already there.
I fell in love. I'm in love. But it's just a matter of taking it day by day, understanding who you are, but you're still in a learning process, right? So it's the same thing for what they're going through. I don't want to compare it to a relationship, but
Hmm.
you've got to know who you are and you got to know what you want. And if that's motherhood in the future, say, you know what?
Hmm.
I'm going to do this. I have hope. I have faith. And
Yeah,
really quick, what?
I really relate to what you said before too, when you said, I was out in nature and you were more present. And I think that's what
Hmm.
ends up happening is you're living in the moment and look at how much abundance is in the universe. I mean, when you're in nature, there's
Yes.
no more abundance than that. So you were connecting with that, which is huge. And I wouldn't downplay
Yep.
that at all. So getting out in nature, getting that vitamin D from the sunshine, being able
Yes.
to have positive thoughts and gratitude while you're taking those walks. Those are all huge things, So I think that that's big. And the other thing that you mentioned that you did was because you were more present centered, whether you know that you did it or not, you probably did something which was surrendering. There was a bit of
Yes.
surrender, and
Yes.
I was not able to surrender because what we typically do is we attach to whatever our expectation is, right? And I was
Attachments.
so
Yep.
attached. Yes, I was so attached to I have to be a mom. I have to be a mom. So because I couldn't let go of how I thought my life had to be, even though I don't have 100% control over how my life's going to be, but I was so attached to it that I couldn't relax. I couldn't have inner peace. And all of my actions were aligned with making sure something happened, making sure something happened. Whereas when you're able to release and surrender and say, whatever your higher power is, my higher power is I'm of the Christian faith. So even though I knew God wanted the best for me, I still had this fear that he was going to say no. No, you're not going to get this baby. And I was, in my mind, I'm not going to allow that to happen. Like I had the control, for goodness sakes. Why, you know what I mean? Like, who did I think I was? Right. I've got this plan, God. But the more I
Yeah,
didn't release and surrender, the more I pushed my baby away. You see what I'm saying? But nobody
I
was
do.
telling me that. If I had someone that could sit down and show me these are the things that are getting in the way. These are the things that you can do to help
Yes.
yourself have peace, to help yourself release, to help yourself work through these emotions, have someone understanding you. I mean, this is value that's got no price, right? Like, it's just like, I mean, it's just, we all need that in our lives, someone to
Me
help
too.
us look at our own brains. And we can't see our own brains because we're so right there, you know?
Exactly. I love the platform for this podcast because it lets people be vulnerable and open up, and people want to just be heard, so their stories can help another person out in this world. And that's exactly, like, I love talking to, authors and coach who focus on one topic also, to help the world out. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. And really, really quick, I do got to jump into a quick little commercial. But you
Sure.
mentioned the word faith. Okay. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Oh, there
Faith
it is.
is snapbands.com is our sponsor here on Keep Hope Alive. And you can see I have the Hope one. So let me explain a little bit about snap bands. I'm sorry, I got my IV sticks right there, so ignore those. But the one thing you're looking at the word faith, and really quick, I'm going to go into that really quick about it. You can only get this mantra word faith if you use a promo code with Snapbands, KHA, Keep Hope Alive. So they made a special band called Faith for this podcast and people who would like it and everything. So, really quick, I'm going to tell you a little bit about snap bands. Make sure I got my right mouse. Nope. So, the world is a stressful place for everyone with work, school, relationships, health issues, finances, the nightly news. There's anxiety every day. Negative thoughts can keep popping into your head over and over again. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of anybody loving me. Bad things always happen to me. If you ever have these types of thoughts, you are not alone. More than 40 million Americans are diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. Anxieties, worries, and fears can stop you from finding inner peace and achieving your true potential. You deserve to live your best life. Finally, there's an amazing new bracelet called Snap Bands that was invented to help you reduce anxiety, control OCD, and calm stress. Snap bands are cognitive behavioral therapy tool based on proven brain neuroscience, and the way snap bands works. It's amazing. Snap bands bracelets, let's see, look like a stylish piece of jewelry on your wrist, but its unique design actually hides a secret elastic band that sits right on your inner wrist, which is a pressure point on your brain's nervous system. When you give that elastic a little tug, you feel the gentle, soft vibration of your inner wrist. A gentle physical sensation is all you need to reduce anxiety. And here's why. Did you know that the human brain can only deal with one emergency at a time? So, whenever you feel an unwanted negative thought in your head, gently snap the elastic on your inner wrist, and it forces your brain to focus on gentle physical sensations that you feel, which instantly disrupts the unwanted negative thought from your brain. This gives you the freedom to reset your mind with a positive mental focus. The mantra word on your snap bands bracelet helps you to refocus and reset. So, there are seven, now eight, different mantra words you can choose on your bracelet: believe, blessing, dream, fearless, hope, love, peace, and then, of course, faith just came out. So, with these bands, they are adorable. You can actually take these to wash your dishes, take a shower. They are made out of a vegan leather and are people with sensitive skin, it doesn't bother them, which is really nice. But I've had mine for about a month. And, I wanted to try it out. And I'm probably the most honest person I know. I can say that, if something doesn't work, I'm going to let you know. But I have chosen to use hope a lot. And whether I'm at the doctor's, I did it once at church, if I'm having something where I feel like anxiety is coming, I'm like, let's refocus. I hope this goes away, God. Help me take the steering wheel. Let's get this controlled. So it does help me reset. And I love that about the bands. I also listen to some calming music because it's not every day you hear a surgeon say, hey, we're going to do surgery, but it could be life threatening. So then you're like, yeah, let's snap. But visit them. They have all different colors that you can choose from. Their website is www.snapbands.com, and Snapbands is spelled SNAPPBANDZ.com. And they give a portion to mental illness organizations out there once you buy one. So check them out. But
Hmm.
going back, I mean, I know about your book you said that you wrote and everything. And, is this a book at like Barnes and Nobles, Amazon? Do you have it as Audible?
I don't have Audible yet, but that hopefully
Okay.
will be coming pretty soon. But yes, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, basic bookstores. And you can also go right to my website and you can click there to go directly to order it as well.
Okay. And what's your website?
My website is www.yourfertilityangel.com.
Oh, I love it. Anything with
Yes,
Angel.
I just feel like we all need an angel, right? Like somebody
We
that's
do. We
like
do.
our encourager, our guide along our path, that we just need that little extra something to get us to where we dream to be, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And it's neat. And I bet you go out in different places and people will just come up and talk to you too. And
Yeah.
sometimes there is a reason why that happens. And I always say God only knows. But if somebody does that to me, I'll just listen and be an open ear. I've been like that forever. So it
Mhm.
was just
Me
like,
too.
okay, well,
They always want to like unload their life and you don't really even know them very well, but I don't mind because I love people. I
that's how
love
I am too.
people and I like to just help where I can help. And sometimes, like you said, it's just listening and that does wonders for them because somebody
It
can,
does.
you know,
Yep,
yeah.
and everybody has a unique story, which is amazing. So, with the books, I have a place on my website at www.keephopealivepodcast.com. So, if you're watching this episode, which is amazing, jump over to our store part, and then you will be able to find her book and get that right away. So, but it goes back to hope. Don't lose hope. Okay, that's the one thing I think of right away. It may not be your time or something. Doctors, they make mistakes. They're
They
human.
do.
They can say, like, in my case, you can't get pregnant ever, but it wasn't up to them. I learned it was up to
Right.
God, and
Mhm.
taking care of myself and redirecting thought is what helped me. But everybody has a different story. But if you are at a point where you want to go through and talk to Dawn, and you are so encouraging. I love it. So, like I told you, I wish I had you back in the day. I'd be calling
Thanks.
you right away and just going through that whole thing. Did we cover all the 5 points of your superstar method?
We
I think we
mostly
got to
did.
two.
Yeah, well, you know what? We did story, which was we talked about it being your mindset. And one of the things I do in the book is I have them do a mind dump in the book. So we take the word infertility and I want them to just throw down everything, no judgment, take a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and every thought that comes to mind about infertility, write those down. And you'll be amazed at, there may be some thoughts that are on the positive end. There may be some thoughts that are on the negative end. It's not about judging whether they're positive or negative. We would look at those together and we would look at what those thoughts, what kind of
Yeah.
feelings are you getting, are creating because of those thoughts? Are those
Yeah.
thoughts you want to think? We all sometimes think that we have no control over our thoughts. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, and the large majority of them are repeated thoughts. We get into patterns of things without even being conscious of it. And one of the things we do as coaches is to help you learn to be conscious of your thoughts, because then you can decide, do I like this thought? If I had all of these thoughts in the closet, like we try on clothes, is this the thought I would choose to think if I had the choice to choose? And we do have the choice to choose. So,
Yes.
when you look at that, what are these thoughts that are serving me or not serving me? How can I make thoughts happen or create thoughts in my mind that are aligned with me wanting to become a mom? Is this thought going to help me become a mom? Is this thought creating stress or relieving stress? And that's just one point of the star. That's the story part. That's the mindset part. And then the other S is state, which is our emotional state. So, I mean, our emotional state, like we are not taught how to deal with emotions. I mean, we are in a world that, we grew up from young and we followed the patterns of our parents, which oftentimes was like, children, you don't be, speak, but don't be heard, kind of thing. Like they're like, go play in traffic or go this, like you're not, you stuff down your feelings, we don't even know how to process feelings. What do? We suppress them, we avoid them, we, eat them away, we social media them away, we overwork them away. Like we numb ourselves because we're almost afraid of the feeling because we don't even know it. We're so afraid of something we haven't even really felt. So one of the things we would
Yeah.
really work on are all of these emotions, and there's so much grief and
Yeah.
you can unforgiveness in your heart from years ago. And the way that the body manifests emotion is through disease. So
I know.
know what I'm saying?
I
So,
know.
yes. So, I mean, they say, like a very large percentage of disease is due to stress. Well, the stress is coming from unmanaged emotions,
Yeah.
So where do the unmanaged emotions come from? Hello, the thoughts we have, not the circumstances. We all think, well, it's because I lost my job that I'm depressed. Well, it's because, no, the circumstance is neutral. It's our thoughts that we have about it is what makes the difference. Whether, because people can have the same circumstance, but their experience of it is very different from someone else's. How can that be? Because our thoughts are different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is a huge piece for us to work on, is emotions, so that we can release emotions that may have been embedded in your body for years, and also how to cope with the ones that are arising regularly, how to create the feelings you want to feel, and what's aligned with having
Exactly.
a baby, not the worry, not the stress, not the controlling ways. We have to go the other way. And then the other S is surrender, which we did talk about. So
Yes.
learning about how do you surrender, because we can talk about the importance of surrender, but how do you surrender? So that's a whole area that we cover. And then another one is self. To me, this is one of the most critical ones because it is the undercurrent and foundation of our entire lives. So if you deem yourself as someone who's not worthy and not valuable and not deserving, you could have an underlying belief that is really on a subconscious level that could be keeping this baby from you. Almost like, I'm not deserving to be a mom. Maybe it's a fear of being a mom. Maybe you didn't have a great motherly role model and you're afraid that you won't be a good mother. And that fear is embedded deep in a worthiness level. And that once we worked on that, it's a freedom to conceive situation, because you've kind of released and opened up that whole allowance of being able to receive that abundance of a baby. You see what I'm saying? So,
Yes, I do.
yeah. So like the self, to me, like all of our thinking that we're talking about, the common denominator of that is how you feel about yourself. Because think about the thoughts that you have. If you have self-deprecating thoughts, then we know that you're not seeing yourself as worthy and valuable. And that alone, I think some people could be in therapy for years to deal with self-worth and self-esteem and how they regard themselves. But I don't think it's something that needs to take that long. I think it's just something we need to understand and see what we can do to shift that. And that's something that we work on. And the
Yeah,
last, go
I
ahead.
agree on that. Not, take long. I mean, you'll have a doctor say, I believe you need to go to therapy and get this counselor, and that could be like a year or two, but then they're like, well, take this drug and take this drug. You don't need those dang drugs. You need to
Right.
listen to us on this show and,
Mhm.
take in information. And, people, I hear this all the time. I don't have time to listen to a podcast. Well, you on the road? Yeah, you do. I
Yep. Mhm.
mean, I
I have
listen to
it when I'm doing
Audible.
my makeup. I always have stuff on when I'm doing my makeup, or yep, driving in the car or cooking dinner. I have podcasts on all the time. Like that's just what I do. I'm
Yeah,
always
definitely.
trying to like seep in information, like
That's
make
how
my
I
time
am.
useful, and I
Yeah.
have time for music and radio and all that kind of stuff too. But I do like to make good use of my time and better myself, basically.
So do I. Audible books have been my thing. Listen, and there's times caught myself waking up because I fell asleep to the book, but I woke up and go, I already know that. Because I was helping women and men get out of abusive relationships, but they were talking about gaslighting, and I was like, I learned that it was seeping through, even though it was asleep. So the
Mhm.
mind is still working. And it's
Yeah.
like, I bet if I rewound and wait, I know I heard this before already. Like,
Yep.
when you already
Yep.
seen one of your shows going, hey, no, this is familiar.
Deja vu.
So
It's like deja vu. Yeah.
yeah, deja vu all over again and stuff.
Uh,
So my goodness. I
so the
mean,
last,
you are,
can I tell you what the last S is? The
yes,
last
yes,
of the
yes.
star is strategy. So the strategy means it's the action, really. What are we going to do that's going to get us what we want, right? So once we've looked at all the other 4 points of the stars, the strategy or slash action steps need to be the ones that are aligned with those thoughts and feelings, and our ability to surrender and our positive sense of self is now aligned in the direction of where we want to be. So it's a process, but it's such a worthwhile one because you can use these 5 points of the star in any challenging situation in your life. So whether you're going through a divorce, whether you're struggling financially, whether you're having relationship problems in your family with your spouse, whatever it might be, look at those 5 points of the star and say, which one of these is getting in the way of what I want things to look like for myself? And
And
maybe
they
more than
fix it.
one. Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't have to be infertility. It could be anything. It's a useful tool that you can use in
I
life.
like that. Yeah, definitely. I never thought, that I like the star concept because there's so
Yeah,
many different points. What a great play.
exactly. Exactly.
So be like, I got all the corners of my star. What's the next one? Let's bring it on.
Yes.
So
And that means you're a superstar when you're working them all. Get it?
superstar. Who was
Superstar.
that? Molly Shannon, superstar. Wait,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. That was a Saturday Night Live.
It's
I
really,
think.
that's what it is called, the 5 point superstar. Yeah. Because
Awesome.
yes, you're your
Now you've
shining
been doing
self.
this for a while too, and you majored in psychology and counseling, I guess,
Mhm.
for life
Yeah.
coach and
Yes.
everything.
Yeah. Well, my background, like I said, was counseling psychology. So I was a counselor slash therapist and school counselor for many years. But actually, life coaching in this area is brand new for me because, like I said, the book just came out in this past May. So this is all new. But the beauty of it is, even though I mentioned earlier, I'm 57 and I started my infertility struggle at 37, you're talking almost 20 years later till I did anything to help anybody. But why is that? I wasn't ready to before then. I was struggling
Yeah.
with it myself. And then we went through the adoption and when you mentioned earlier in this episode, you're like, what brought you to this? This is why I know it's a God thing, because all of the years that I was parenting, I was actually going to write a book on parenting. It's interesting, Nadine. So my original goal was, wow, I have learned so much from the mentors that I've been listening to, the books that I've been reading.
Mhm.
I've gained so much coupled with my own, experience and education that I was like, I think if I would have had this information back when I was trying to conceive, I might have conceived. Like I really thought that was the case. And I was like, this is it. This is why I wasn't meant to conceive, so that all of this could be figured out and I could put it together to help others that were in the same spot that I was. And it was all worth it because I have faith through adoption and she's the only child that I need. And she's perfect for me. And I always think, had I conceived, I wouldn't have her. And she was destined to be with us. So,
Well, remember
yeah,
KHA, you can
yes,
get her name on a band.
hope and faith. That's right. So you got to keep the faith and you got to keep the hope, right?
You
And so I
do,
really
both of them.
think the pain, and I can say this with the utmost sincerity and true vulnerability, that I don't regret going through how horrible, and I'm saying it like I went through divorce and infertility was like exponentially worse for me. For me, it was. And
Mhm.
I feel like I don't regret having gone through that because of how it turned out for me, even though I wouldn't have known that way back when it was happening. And we never do. And that's where the trust and faith comes in. But it's
Yep.
worth it to me because if I can help, even when I wrote this book, I said, if I can help one person not have the pain that I had, not, be able to conceive the way I wasn't able to, it will be worth it. Like it's totally worth it. So, I even just listening to this podcast episode, somebody may have gotten something from it, Nadine, and they don't need the book and they don't need to coach with me and they are on their merry way and the baby's coming and that's worth it all. And thank you for that platform.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm gonna make me cry.
Yeah, I
That's,
mean, you're doing such
um,
good to make this kind of discussion happen, but sometimes it's just the discussion about it. And somebody says one thing and you take it differently and you apply it to yourself and everything changes and shifts. And you may have said it and I may have said it, and together we molded together to make something beautiful happen, right? So
Yay. Yes, we did. Yes, yes. I mean, this has just been amazing. And your journey going through this to get to where you are right now. Yeah, that is God's work. You know, I never knew back when I was young. I knew I wanted to be a wedding planner, so I did everything to get there. But then I had a really bad seizure and I was all by myself. And I guess I was out like 7 hours or something, but
wow.
it was amazing. I bought a camera. Like, I thought I was a photographer. I have to say it that way because that's really what happened. People are like, "Oh, did you always know you wanted to be a photographer?" I was like, "No, I had a seizure and bought a camera and built a website, and I've been booked for 25 years. I
Meant to
taught
be.
myself everything." So I didn't
It's
know that
those
was my
nudges. You
journey.
got a nudge. You got like an internal nudge to do it and you followed it, you know? I mean,
Yeah, and then with this podcast, it was another nudge, which was amazing. And I am blessed that I'm doing this now because it's something I want to do the rest of my life. I want to continue doing this and interviewing people. I think that's always been my calling, even in the past, because I tried to create a company that did interviews. So when podcasts came around, I was like, great, this is amazing. I
yeah.
can do this, and the chips just came aligned, the universe lined up, and I got my wonderful guests who've been on this show so far. But it's great to walk around and be like, I love the app called Linktree because you meet somebody out there, yes, maybe they're having problems with alcohol or something. Oh, I interviewed this person, you've got to listen to this part of my show, and it sends it, and it's just a
Mhm.
great tool app to
Yeah.
use when
Yeah.
you're talking to people and everything. But um definitely, I am really hoping that people who are listening to this, I mean, this has been great. I like when I have you on, I put myself in the mindset, okay, people go through this, but let's say I'm going through this too. What do I need to ask you? But you've covered all the points,
Mhm.
right? To perfect. And I mean, this has been a great interview. So
Awesome.
I definitely like you made a comment too about parenting. So is that a future goal that you're going to write maybe another book about parenting?
Yeah, I think that will definitely be a book because I originally, like I said, was going to write the book about parenting. And in the first chapter, I was thinking, well, I'll let the readers know how I became a parent. And so I figured there might be a chapter or two on infertility. And then when I started to write that, I was like, this is its own thing. Like it just all came together. And that's why I think it was God given because it flowed very easily for me. And when something flows,
Yeah.
there's no resistance. It just is. And I've never written a book before. So it was like, it's almost like God just guided me and it's like, this is what they need to hear. Okay. So let's just do this. So
You're not the first person who said that, I've heard other guests say, God has put me right here, and this
yeah.
is my purpose to do the work.
And it
And
didn't take me long to write it. And that's how I know too, because I hear people, oh, I've been writing a book for 10 years. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, it only took me like 6, 7 months. I mean, that was it. Like it, I, it was just, I made a dedicated practice to it. And it was just like, well, I'm going to write. And I was able to do it fairly quickly. And I just know that it was God's guidance. I know it without a doubt.
yeah, yeah,
So
definitely. It's
when it's
funny.
time for the next one, he'll guide me on that one too. So
Yes, I tell myself, oh, I could never write a book because I'll read it and want to erase it the next day and write. And then, but it was funny interviewing all these authors and stuff. And, I was asleep. I remember just waking up and I had a title of a book that I would want to write. And I'm like, well, why are you giving me a title, God? I don't want to sit down and write this. Like I have other goals. I want to coach now, I want to do different things to
Now
help
make sure
people
you
in the world.
keep that title tucked away somewhere because when the timing is right, you may be using it. You never know. Or for
You
something else.
never know. Maybe my coaching part. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of like, I love karaoke. I love singing. So it feeds my soul. But lyrics too. Keep hope alive is a lyric. And I heard it on, oh, forgot the band's name. Ah, I said it in many other ones. But yeah, I didn't know what to call my podcast. I had way too many people. I've been in the event industry for over 25 years, and I was like, okay, that's my niche. No, it's not. And then doctors and people, oh, you're gonna have a podcast? I want to be on it. And I was like, I started another company called Point of View Interviews. And I had a webcast videos production LLC. And I was like, okay, well, this is things that was going to cost a lot of money because podcasts were not around yet. So I had the film guy paying him to go out, make these commercials of interviews and stuff. But it was just too expensive. The timing was so
Mhm.
poor. And
Mhm.
now it's like the world has opened up,
There you
podcasts
go.
are born. I'm being able to do what I wanted to do back many years ago, same concept. But yeah, I just want to bring a whole new light to different people's stories and stuff. And
That you are.
don't don't lose faith. Do not lose faith because there's always a way, and if it doesn't work, there's still a way. There's something meant for you to do in this world. And you got to kind of understand that with your heart too. So there's probably a different direction that our angels and God wants us to go on this path. So, but yeah, definitely. Um, Thank you so much for coming on. I really also want to thank our other sponsors for Keep Hope Alive. I'm going to put on my mommy glasses. I'm so blind as a bat, but then I see the reflection and I'm like, ah. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we had Life on Record, which it was your interactive guest book, which is really good to have. You can find them at www.lifeonrecord.com. Also, we talked about snapbands.com. SNAPPBANDZ.com will help reduce anxiety. Remember, I gave you the code. If you want the word faith, you got to put KHA in the notes, and that will make you a faith one. But other than that, they had all those different stylish ones. Our next one is Ogden Ventures LLC. Marcus Ogden. He is a former NFL player, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and podcast host. I'm going to spell out his name because it's a little different. His website is www.marcus, and it's spelled MARQUES, last name Ogden, OGDEN.com. Our next one is bridalshowsinc.com. If you are planning to have a big event or a wedding in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, now we get everybody from all different states coming actually to these shows. They host about maybe 5 to 6 different trade shows throughout the year, but you can meet your vendors. They'll showcase their work. You can see their beautiful fashion shows, everything like that, and be able to have it all planned. Our next one is Miles and Smiles Events.com. Deborah Rose, her background, she's an investigator, but she is also a handwriting analysis and a lipstick reader, and she's 100% accurate. She makes any event really, really fun. So check her out. We also have Bryce Harney, and his website is www.brycemagic.com. Can you guess what he is? Yes, a magician, my mentalist. He does corporate events. He also does church events. So if the sermon is on one topic, he can go in there and intervene with a whole show, and it's amazing. I tell everybody, go onto YouTube, type in Bryce Harney, and watch all the magic happen. RichmondPunch.net is our next one. Richmond graduated from the Juilliards. He's been in the event industry for over 30 years. He's a violinist. He's performed for a funeral with over 1 million people there, and he's had 2 lifetime show spots to be playing the violin too. So check him out. He is hireable and will travel. Our last one is TK Hair Salon. And their website is www.tkhairsalon.com. They are located in Plano, Texas. So if you're coming to Texas, come and get your haircut. They do an amazing job. Guys, girls, kids. They do colors, styles, perms. They do the face, eyebrows, and stuff. Oh, and updos. They do a great job on updos. So check them out. Also, if you have any questions for Dawn or myself, you can always call us at 833-780-HOPE, which is 4673. And I promise I will give Dawn those messages right away and we'll get them answered for you.
Great, I love
So we
that.
are on season 14. Thank you for everybody who watches this podcast show and listens to my corny voice on here. But I love interviewing. So hey, you got the best of both worlds. So, but definitely we're always looking for new guest speakers. We are booked up for until end of April. So we're bringing on more guests and more guests. I'm very grateful and blessed to have that. Remember, wherever you find your podcast, you will be able to find Keep Hope Alive. And once again, Dawn, thank you so much for coming on. What a true blessing.
Thank you so much, Nadine. I so appreciate you giving me the opportunity to meet you and chat with all of your listeners out there.
Oh, thank you. And remember, you got to go to our store and buy her book because it's amazing. So,
And leave
but
a
as
review.
leave a review.
Leave
Yes,
a
that is so
review.
important in today's world. Those reviews. So, all right, guys, until next time, mwah, love and light.